Right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning. I'm Emily Cooperman. I'm the chair of the Committee on Historic Designation, and I also sit on the full commission. Before we get started, I'm going to hand things over to the executive director of the Historical Commission staff, Dr. John Farnham, to say a few words about the meeting.
Thank you, and good morning. Just a couple of quick notes about how today's meeting will run. The meeting is being recorded, and by participating in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. The recording will be available after the meeting on the Historical Commission's website. That's www.phila.gov/historical. Also on that website, on the public meetings page, you'll find everything you need to participate in today's meeting, the agenda for the meeting, nominations, and any public comment received by noon yesterday. Every agenda item includes an opportunity for comment. If you'd like to comment, you will need to raise your hand. And if you're on a smart device, laptop, or smartphone, you can use the raise hand feature in Zoom. If you happen to be on a standard telephone, you'll have to raise your hand using *9. Once you've been acknowledged to speak by the chair, you'll need to unmute yourself from your end. Again, you can use the audio toggle in Zoom if you're on a smart device. If you are on a standard telephone, *6 will unmute and mute you. The committee typically makes its decisions by unanimous consent, but if there is apparent disagreement among committee members, a roll call vote can be conducted. Finally, the Historical Commission has adopted guidelines for conduct at its meetings. Those guidelines include order of presentation, and for the presentation of a standard nomination, the nominator will have an opportunity to speak first and then the property owner. If you're unfamiliar with those guidelines, please take a look at them. They are on the public meetings page of the Historical Commission's website. Thanks very much. I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, John. All right. I'm going to say a couple of words about what we do before we introduce the members of the committee, and then move into our agenda. We are an advisory body to the Historical Commission. We provide a recommendation to the Historical Commission about whether or not a property for which the nomination is on our agenda meets one or more criteria in the city's ordinance for designation. That is essentially what our job is in brief. We do not address questions of condition or financial hardship as they relate to those criteria and therefore to our recommendation. And I think I'll leave that at that for the moment. So just to be clear, we do not designate here for anyone who hasn't been in our meetings before. That is the job of the commission, and we provide a recommendation to the commission based on our scholarship and professional knowledge and experience in respective professional fields that relate to eligibility for designation under the city's ordinance. And with that, I think I will call on our committee members to say a few words about them and about themselves and their experience, and I will try to do this and not forget anybody. Let's start with Elizabeth Milroy.
Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Milroy, and I teach in the Department of Historic Preservation at the University of Pennsylvania, and I work on the history of parks and public spaces.
Laverty.
My name is Bruce Laverty. I am an adjunct professor at Drexel University, where I teach history of architecture.
Thank you. Debbie Miller.
Hi, good morning. I'm Debbie Miller. I'm an archaeologist here in Philadelphia with over 25 years in federal, state, and local um, cultural resource management experience.
Jeff Cohen. You're muted, Jeff.
Okay, I'm Jeff Cohen. I'm an architectural historian, and I teach in the Growth and Structure of Cities department at Bryn Mawr College.
And Susanna Baruco.
Good morning, Susanna Baruco, historic preservation consultant in private practice and adjunct in the historic preservation program at Jefferson.
Thank you. And before we get started, I want to say thank you for everyone who's contributed to our agenda today, nominators, and the members of the staff of the Historical Commission, who I know work tirelessly or virtually tirelessly on bringing these to the point where they are on our agenda in the meeting. And so thank you to everyone. First on our agenda is 1018 South Second Street, the Andrew Nebinger House. And I'm sorry, I really don't know how to say that, so please correct me. Saplinsky Funeral Home. And Heather Hendrickson, I believe, will be presenting this nomination to us.
Yes, good morning. If we could please elevate Henry Chaplinsky, who is the owner of this property. This nomination was initiated by the owner and it was written by Historical Commission staff. This nomination proposes to designate the property at 1018 South 2nd Street in the Southwark or Queen Village neighborhood and listed on the Philadelphia Register of Historic Places. The nomination contends that the property satisfies criteria for designation A and J. Under criterion A, the nomination asserts that the building's early history is associated with prominent medical doctor Andrew Nebinger Jr. Under criterion J, the nomination argues that the property's funeral home use, dating back to 1898 and extending through 2026, exemplifies the cultural, social, and historical heritage of the Southwark community as part of a broader pattern of neighborhood-based, family-operated funeral establishments deeply embedded in South Philadelphia's social fabric. The staff recommends that the nomination demonstrates that 1018 South 2nd Street satisfies criteria for designation A and J.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the correct pronunciation of Mr. Chaplinsky's name. I appreciate that, and I apologize for mispronouncing it in the first place. Would he like to say anything to us at this point? I can't see that he's been elevated. Oh, yes, Mr. Chaplinsky, you have been elevated. If you would like to say anything, you can unmute yourself. If you don't, that's fine. We just wanted to invite you to say something if you wish.
Yes.
Okay, well, what?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, I just want to see how what the resolution of the property is going to be, and I'm interested in making it a historical site. I think it's historically viable by a funeral home because it was Bowen's funeral home before that, and also Andrew Nebinger's house. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we appreciate your support and involvement in the nomination. All right. I think we will now invite members of the public who are in the meeting who wish to speak to this nomination. Please raise your hand so we can hear your comment if you'd like to make one. I am not seeing any hands raised at the moment. But I think we'll start our discussion, and if anyone decides they want to say something, we'll go ahead and hear from them. Debbie, I seen you had your hand raised, so I think you wanted to start. Okay.
I hit a button. Just ignore me.
Okay, yeah, it happens. I've done it.
I'll start. I thought this
Okay.
was a fascinating nomination. I really enjoyed reading about the history of these, burial rites and funerary rites. And it reminded me that when I first moved to Philadelphia, I lived on at 19th and Spring Garden. And I don't know, there was a Wawa just south of there. And there was actually still a casket maker on the block, like right in that neighborhood. And so it really kind of brought home to me just how much this was a neighborhood enterprise. So really, really interesting. And I appreciate so much that Mr. Chiplinski is interested in adding his Siplinski, sorry, adding this property to the Philadelphia Register. I think it's really worthy, and I thought this was a really good nomination.
Yeah, I'll second that. It's a fascinating story. And Susanna, that casket maker was probably at 19th and Spring Garden because they would have been very close to Monument Cemetery.
It wasn't
Um,
on Spring Garden. It was
no, no,
it was a couple of blocks south.
it doesn't have to be on anything, and Monument wasn't on Spring Garden. It's that
Uh,
that these what's interesting is how many of these businesses clustered near significant cemeteries in the vicinity
Gotcha.
thereof,
Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
is it would be my only observation, just because I've been doing a lot of work on cemeteries lately. That how does this particular location relate to any cemeteries in that particular neighborhood? But it's
Mhm.
not. That's an aside. It's not crucial to the nomination. Mr.
Mhm.
Siplinski, can you answer that
Yes,
question?
I have many burials in Old Swedes, which is all down
Oh,
the
cool.
street.
Okay.
Old Swedes
Great.
and in the area, yes. I've done. I just recently buried one in December there.
Mm,
Great. Thank you.
very
That's
interesting.
really interesting.
And as far as that, the up on the third floor, the caskets were made. I had a book of pictures drawn of the caskets they made, but when I had it renovated downstairs, somebody stole the book,
Yeah.
which is
Oh,
unfortunate.
That's a terrible
thank you.
shame.
That is a shame.
Oh
Yeah.
dear. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was thinking of I really appreciated the discussion of women's role in taking care of the dead in the nomination. But I immediately thought of the role cabinet makers had in this, and I was thinking of Jacob Noor in Germantown specifically, the connection to funerary practice. So it's really interesting to see the way these networks were operated, which I think this nomination really brings to into focus very nicely. Um, I had one minor quibble that I'm going to bring up now, is that there are multiple references to deeds without a reference to book or page, and so that is something that I hope will be added to future nominations. Um, it is something that really should be included in deed references.
Can I say something again?
Yes, please.
Yes. E. Bowens bought it after Nemager, but I think I asked the people coming in, Kim, that on 1026, I think the original Bowens was at 1026 South Second Street on a corner, which was taken with the highway. And then when Andrew Nemager died, that's when they bought this property and put it. So they've been, and history is of funerals are that it was done with cabinet. It started out. If you look at old cowboy movies, it was always the carpenter that made the caskets, and was the funeral director at those days. In the pioneer days. So that's how it started. Funeral homes started all over in the United States as the cabinet makers. They were the ones that built the caskets, and from that They became funeral directors. Then embalming came later after Lincoln was embalmed, and that's when the bomb. But I remember when I was young, most of the funerals were not in a funeral home; they were at homes. We went to the homes, set up funeral at homes, and then later on, if in the 50s, late 50s and 60s, they started using the funeral home.
Yeah, I was wondering, I'm glad to hear that. I was going to guess it would be after the war, but I didn't know
Yes,
exactly when. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's,
I
does
would,
anybody else have
well, I would
any?
strong, go ahead.
Sorry, Bruce. Go ahead.
I would strongly support this nomination. The Either one of the stories, either about Dr. Nebinger or the life of this property as a funeral home would be enough to put it over. But the fact that they come together and the proximity of the house to the Cooper Union volunteer refreshment saloon and hospital during the Civil War, which changed the entire funeral industry or gave birth to the professional funeral industry in Philadelphia. It ties it perfectly together. Also, kudos to the staff for providing the first 1870 aerial photograph. My eyes caught that, and then I thought, oh, of course, the shot tower.
Yes, where I
So,
worked at for 37 years.
and what a great photograph it is. I mean, so, yeah, I strongly support the nomination. I think it's fantastic.
I'd echo that very much, and I'm pleased to learn so much more about this kind of building and this kind of enterprise, especially since so many of them have been really well kept and survive. And sometimes old buildings survive as funeral homes much longer than they do as residences when they're in places of great change. So I applaud the staff, and I think it's well worthy of nomination.
Does anybody else have anything to add, or would someone like to make what's that called? Resolution? No. Motion. There we go.
I can make a
I
motion.
will. Oh, go ahead. Go
Go,
ahead, Jeff.
Bruce.
I move that we add 1018 South 2nd Street, the Andrew Nebinger Jr. House and Chaplinski Funeral Home to
Second.
the
Oh,
Philadelphia Register of Historic Places based on criteria A and J.
Someone like to second?
second.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes by unanimous consent. Thank you. Thank you to Heather. Thank you to Mr. Chaplinsky.
And thank you to the layers out of the dead.
Yes,
Yes, absolutely.
thank you very much. Yes, I'm pleased.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we will move on to the next nomination on our agenda, which is 601 West Godfrey Avenue, the Carl Metz House. And I believe John Farnham will be presenting it to us.
Yes, thank you. If anyone is in attendance representing the owner of this property, if you could please raise your hand, that would be much appreciated. So this nomination proposes to designate the property at 601 West Godfrey Avenue, known as the Carl Metz House and listed on the Philadelphia Register. The nomination asserts that the property satisfies criteria for designation C and D. The nomination contends that the Carl Metz House reflects the environment characterized by a distinctive architectural style, the quote Spanish type architecture, end quote style, and embodies distinguishing characteristics of that style. Constructed by real estate developer Carl Metz to designs by his son, sometimes known as Carl Metz Jr., in 1927, when the Spanish colonial revival style was at its apex of popularity in Philadelphia. The Carl Metz House is the finest single-family residential example of the style in the city of Philadelphia and therefore merits designation as an historic landmark. The staff recommends that the nomination demonstrates that the property at 601 West Godfrey satisfies criteria for designation C and D. No one among the audience members has raised a hand as a representative of the property owner. We did, of course, notify the property owner pursuant to the preservation ordinance. And I'll note that neither of the two letters that we sent were returned. So hopefully, presumably, they made it to the property owners.
Okay, thank you. Very good. Why don't we, since we've checked to see if the property owner's in the meeting, why don't we go ahead and invite any members of the public who wish to speak to this nomination to raise their hand, and we can hear a comment from them. All right, first we have David Traub. Good morning.
Good morning, David Traub, representing Save Our Sites. It's so pleasing to see a house in the East Oak Lane neighborhood be nominated. Of course, this particular house is eminently qualified for designation. It's a wonderful house, and it certainly exemplifies the best of the Mission Revival style. But there are so many other houses at East Oak Lane that are deserving eventually of designation. I don't recall in recent memory any nominations coming forward for that neighborhood. I once myself gave a lecture on the houses of East Oak Lane at the Free Library branch up there, and in researching, I found many houses that are very distinctive. Part of that neighborhood somewhat resembles a upper middle class suburb way away from the city, and in that regard is unique insofar as it's within the city limits. I want to go on to say that this nomination is incredible, and I thank the Historic Commission staff. I assume that Dr. Farnham wrote it. I don't know, but it goes on, and it's really a treatise on the Mission Revival style. I spent about an hour last night reading through it with great fascination. I learned so much. Some of the examples I knew about, others I didn't. So I thank the commission for this incredible document. So that's something that I really wanted to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak at this point who's in the meeting? I'm not seeing any raised hands. All right, well then I think we'll move to committee discussion. I'll just echo what David Traub just said about the quality of the nomination. Thank you very much. It was, I also learned a lot. You know, it's one of those things where you think, oh, that's what that is. I didn't know. I'm embarrassed. I didn't know. Then I learned a new technical term, espadanya. I did not know that. So thank you for all the hard work on this. And kudos. Excellent nomination.
I really enjoyed reading this. I just have a question. Where did he get the financial backing to start his real estate development career? Because if he's a cigar maker, and this is just because I'm curious, can you elaborate on that at all, Dr. Farnham?
Not more than is in the nomination. I think started small and worked his way up. Started by developing, just small groups, 2, 3, 4 houses, and even living in some of the buildings as he built them and after he built them. But I was unable to find any other information about his financing except the one long quotation from his son, which provided in the 1940s, and I think that they've been using the same sort of system to develop, going all the way back to the late teens.
The cigars were
Thank you.
big
No,
business
it's
in, I was going to say, so cigars were big business in Philadelphia, at that time period. Not that he was a multimillionaire, but it was enough to apparently get him started.
well, it might, well,
it
and
would
sometimes, oh, sorry,
it would
Lily.
mean access to all those smoke-filled rooms. It would mean that he would know men who smoke cigars.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so silent investors and an access, to fellows with money might be another avenue.
But I think that, he in the real estate business, he's starting out small, with
Yeah.
2 or 3 houses, not even a full row. And one of the great things about the nomination here is that it sort of explains the process. On page 28, there's a great paragraph that said, Metz had established an annual rhythm to his real estate developments. Each spring, he would purchase a large lot of open land, enough to build about 50 or so houses. He would plat the land and begin construction by the late spring, so that by the end of the year, he had sold, a block or less of houses. So he's not building tens of thousands of houses at a time, but
Right.
when you repeat, you build a business, and the timing was everything, to start in this, just actually just before the war, being able to survive the war, and then through shows how you could become a success, and then be able to afford a house like the one that we see.
Yeah, I was just curious because, it's a real immigrant story. It's a true story of the American dream of somebody coming in, and he seems to have some influx of capital early on. And I've seen it in other small business people who were developing, so that, with some of the immigrant communities I've looked at, some have come in with this idea that they are going to, kind of have this side hustle of development that for Metz ultimately seems to have turned into a very, very lucrative business
Well,
for him. So I
Alfred
was
P.
just,
Or Go ahead. I'm
oh
sorry.
no, I was just really impressed by all the information. And that was just one of my little, like, kind of research questions of my own that sits in the back of my head um, about folks establishing themselves in America through
Yeah.
development.
Yeah, and a
Alfred P.
lot
Or
of them did it.
Go ahead.
Mhm.
I was just saying it's a I mean, what we see are the people who made it. There presumably were people who didn't. But it is remarkable that there are
Mhm.
quite a few of those stories. And it seems like, I mean, one of the things in my garden apartments work, I mean, one of the things that I have been beginning to see is the pattern of, I mean, that there are a lot of either first or second generation Jewish immigrants who identify themselves as architects, do not necessarily have any training as an architect in the sense that they would not have gone to a school where they were taught architecture, like Penn or any of the training schools, the manual training schools, et cetera. And they begin small again, and they have Jewish clients who hire them, and the money just kind of builds over time. But they are not there, but they are cut out of they're not cut. Well, yeah, they probably are cut out of a lot of the time. The establishment of the architects who go to Penn, who go to study in the Beaux-Arts in Paris and come back, and they have it's a very different social circle, and obviously that they're plugged in the social circle that has industrial money as opposed to the mom and pop shops who have the shop on the corner, and they want to convert the upper floor into apartments, and they hired Ethan Fieldstein to do that, and then eventually he does big apartment buildings, and but it's all done within a particular social network, and it's interesting to see those things in operation. But I assume that it's a pyramid scheme of a different sort in the sense that the money starts, it's the upside down pyramid. You start small and eventually, if you're successful and manage to make it, it gets bigger over time, which I assume is what happens with Mets.
One question I had,
So-
which was,
so,
what, were
Alfred-
you able to find any information at all about Carl Metz Jr. as an architect? Emily, you make the point about calling oneself an architect without necessarily, John, were you able to find? I mean, I looked at his obituary and it didn't make any mention. Is there any sense of his having any particular training, or did he really sort of learn on the job and just adopt the title of architect?
Yeah, I was unable to find anything about his education, no information about training, and I think if he had gone to Penn, that information would have been readily available. So I assume that he was trained on the job working with his father. There's evidence of him working, even at a very young age in the development company. So I assume that that's where he developed an expertise in construction and design. He did go on to become a very prominent developer himself, and then participated at high levels in planning organizations and organizations involved in promoting the business of development.
This whole conversation leads to my question, which is, I'm curious, John, why you didn't propose designating under A. What really impressed me about this nomination was just how much Metz, what an imprint he left on the city with all of these developments, so many properties that we pass, developed by Metz and his son. I mean, talk about, kind of, I mean, we raise architects to a certain level, but excuse me, I think in your nomination, you've shown that these small developers, not so small actually, because as I say, he did have quite an imprint on the city, really made a difference. I'm curious as to why you didn't why you decided not to include A while you included so much information about Metz and his career.
Uh,
I would have
I
included it,
think
is what I'm trying to say.
I think he
Especially
would
based
certainly.
on all of your research, which was kind of a tour de force.
I think he certainly would qualify, but I think I learned that there was an incredible construction boom in the city in the early and mid 20s, and Metz was by no means the largest or most prominent developer working at that time. While he was building 50 and later in his career, maybe 100 houses a year. There were competitors of his who were building 1,000, 10,000. So I decided just to keep the criteria streamlined and concentrate on the architecture.
Yeah,
Well, speaking of the competitors, before he was in the house building business, Alfred P. Orleans sold life insurance from a like a lemonade stand on the corner, and he moved into building in the teens. Hyman Corman married a woman whose father owned a farm in what's now Oxford Circle. And when they decided to build the boulevard, Hyman Corman saw, there was opportunity in real estate development. So he was a farmer, and Orleans was a life insurance salesman. So, but they became two of the most successful builders of the 20th century. And they're working exactly at the same time as they no doubt were acquainted with Carl Metz. But so it was easy to go from rags to riches. I shouldn't say easy, but it was certainly possible, and a lot of people were doing it.
yeah. If I could add something, I remember, I started reading these over the weekend, and I thought I was almost done with this, but then I saw there were 95 pages, and I said, "What?" Um, but I've come to appreciate a couple of things about its length. One is it lies in two areas. One is the Spanish type architecture. It gives a past to that really enriches our understanding of them. And it is funny because it has such a where the Spanish character is visible immediately. It offers a different kind of uh, ethnic association that is exotic in the 1920s, probably. But the other part is that it highlights the role of a developer. And so much of the city's past is the main agent of architecture is a developer. And, I could see this being a model in both regards in terms of other buildings that tap into the Spanish identity visually, and just the idea of associating a neighborhood's history with developers, especially in a case like this where so much of it is concentrated in a part of the city. So I
Thank
applaud
you.
I applaud its length ultimately. I learned a lot. I could see it being a model or at least a source for other Spanish type architecture that we come across in nominations.
And the description of how builders built row home and twin home developments in the first half of the 20th century is fantastic. I plan to keep it and use it. Um, so the other thing is that the building type is relatively standardized in terms of building widths and setbacks and things like that, and so how much did builders have a chance to individualize their blocks? And now we're seeing there was quite a bit, whether you do an English type or you do a Queen Anne. And I remember Nick Janopoulos used to always talk about row houses. They had a Queen Anne front and a Mary Anne rear. That they look pretty much the same in the back, but they could be tarted up in the front in a number of different ways. The 20s with the Spanish revival is due, as John mentioned here, is to the Florida land boom, the reading the society pages describing, the Philadelphians who were down there. It was exotic and it was aspirational. And then Hollywood. I live about 3 miles from Hollywood, Pennsylvania here, where the movies sort of introduced Spanish revival to the masses. And if you could have a tile roof on the bay of your two-story row house, then that's pretty nifty. We sold a lot of houses.
It explains the block of Conshohocken State Road that I drive down all the time, and I've always said,
Yes.
"Jeepers creepers, what are these doing here?" Thank you so
Blame
much
it on
for
Douglas
that.
Fairbanks.
And you're right, and thank you, Douglas Fairbanks. And something, and this is not really relevant to this nomination, but Jeff, your point, and actually Bruce, your point about how this nomination feeds so wonderfully into the history of building at this time period is that they also managed to survive the Depression. And that, again, this would be an interesting firm. And Carl Jr. obviously did an amazing job of continuing things forward after his father's death. And that would be an interesting, again, not germane to this nomination, but just a really interesting question is which of these developers managed to make it through the Depression and which did not.
Yeah, a lot of them didn't. I think part of it depends on how much capital you have to raise to finish the project and where and I mean, presumably, what's the source of the capital? I mean, things like, the amount of money that was required to create something like Alden Park disappeared during the Depression. But if you're building row houses, maybe there's a way to finance that. I don't know. That's a question. That's just what occurs to me off the top of my head.
If
Are
if
we
I had
someone?
one, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Bruce. Sorry.
I was going to say if I had one quibble with the nomination, it would be in the overview that it said it's the finest single family residential example. Um, that's a pretty subjective thing. It is certainly a fine single family example. How do we know? How do we know that that is the finest or the prettiest? Yeah, it's and you know, it's a superlative that I'm not sure is defensible.
I'm with you, I'm afraid. That did strike me. But, that being said, I don't think
No,
anyone,
it's yeah, it's not a slap against the other 94 pages or
well, it's
but
94 and a half,
well, yeah, 94 and a
90
half. But
or
it seems to me
94.9.
that there's a lot of argument there. And it's a very subjective thing.
Yeah.
What makes something the finest?
Can we just say outstanding?
Or just say fine.
I don't think we really have to go too far down
Qualify?
this road. Yeah, I
Okay.
think,
If,
um,
if I can just interject,
yeah,
it was strategic on my part because I was concerned that perhaps I'd have to get the property owners on board, and that might be a way to do it.
understood. Yes. Well, I think we could say extremely fine, no matter what.
If it were in the newspaper some at some point when the house was for sale, where it was described that way, you could put it in quotes, and get I think and legitimately get away with it. But that seems to be
Let's
the
just say it
city's
could be.
assessment.
I don't think
It could
anyone is going to
it could
say
be, yeah,
it
it could
couldn't
be.
be.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a nomination,
Okay, please proceed with a motion. Thank you,
a
Susanna.
motion.
Yes.
I move that we recommend listing 601 West Godfrey Avenue, the Carl Metz House, for listing in the Philadelphia Register as a property satisfying criteria for designation C and D.
Second.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes by unanimous consent. Thank you, and thanks again, John, for that wonderful nomination.
Yeah, really great nomination, John.
All right. Next on our agenda is 119 East Gowan Avenue, the Manor train station. And Alex Till, I believe, of the staff is presenting that to us.
Indeed, I am. Thank you, Dr.
morning.
Cooperman. I will read a brief overview for this nomination this morning, but first, could we elevate the nominator, Adrian Trevisan from Powers & Co. to panelist for this? I believe he signed in as A. Trev. We also might want to elevate Ken Weinstein as well. I believe he is here speaking somewhat on behalf of the owners who is SEPTA, but I believe Ken holds a long-term lease for this property.
Okay, very
And
good.
with that, I will read an overview. This nomination proposes to designate the property at 119 East Gowan Avenue and listed on the Philadelphia Register of Historic Places. Two-story brick and frame stick-style building was designed by architect Frank Furness and constructed in 1883 as one of a series of station buildings for the Philadelphia and Reading Railroad. The nomination contends that the building satisfies criteria for designation A as an example of the development of the Mount Airy neighborhood and for its association with Franklin B. Gowan. It also contends that the property is significant under criterion E, as Frank Furness was a notable architect whose work significantly influenced the architecture and development of the city. The staff recommends that the property at 119 East Gowan Avenue satisfies criteria for designation A and E.
Thank you. Well, why don't we go ahead and hear from the nominator if Adrian would like to say anything?
Can you all hear me?
Yep, we can. Good morning.
Great. Well, good morning, everybody. I got to say, this was a pleasure of a nomination to work on. Mr. Gowan is a fascinating gentleman. I didn't know the history of the Pennsylvania Railroad, and I come into Center City on the West Trenton line, so I can tell you that there are still freight trains going up there every so often. And as always, Frank Furnace Building is a pleasure to do. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, then why don't we go ahead and hear from Ken Weinstein if he wants to say anything.
Yeah, thank you very much for considering this. We were quite honestly surprised that this was not already historically designated. Of the five train stations that we got 99-year leases from SEPTA on, this was the only one. And I took this train, I used this train station for years to go downtown to my job in City Hall. And it's just a wonderful station. So we're very much looking forward to restoring it. And I'm literally sitting here going over the lighting plan for the station as we speak.
Excellent. That's wonderful. All right. Well, thank you for being in the meeting. To taking the time. Why don't we go ahead now and invite anyone else in the meeting and members of the public who would like to speak to this nomination. I see that Hannah Stark of the Preservation Alliance for Greater Philadelphia has her hand raised. Why don't we go ahead and hear from her?
Good morning, committee members. This is Hannah with the Preservation Alliance. I just wanted to commend Ken for taking on this nomination and for the process of restoring the station. We're really excited. Like Adrian said, it was a wonderful nomination to read, and we're also looking forward to seeing the station come back to life. So thank you both.
Thank you. And anybody else like to speak to this nomination? Please raise your hand if you do. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. So why don't we go ahead and turn to our committee discussion?
Oh, I was
wonderful. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, that's okay. Lily, go ahead.
This is a wonderful building, and again, yes, it's like, oh my God, this hasn't been designated already. This is a terrific nomination, and it's so nice to see a furnace building recognized. I'm going to have to go down and visit it, and particularly that point about the roof line referencing the coal mines. That was absolutely fascinating. I have one quick question though. On page 9 of the document, the last sentence in the first paragraph about creating the neighborhood now known as Mount Airy, a name it took from the estate of Franklin Gowan's father, James Gowan. I believe Mount Airy is actually the name of the William Allen estate and was there a long time before the Gowans.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we might want to adjust that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
From roughly 1750.
50, yeah.
Well, apparently then Gowan, the father, had given his estate the same name. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. But Allen actually called his country house on Germantown Avenue Mount Airy, so that's where the name comes from.
Yeah, I think it was 1751, 1751.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Well written and well researched. I really appreciated the idea that this station would be special because it was so close to Gowan's house. That had never occurred to me, but it is extraordinary among the other stations. It has a very strong visual identity compared to the others.
Within the category of furnesic, this is extra furnesic.
Okay, or Fernesque.
Fernesque, yes, extra Fernesque.
Yeah, no, even with its accommodations to the higher platform and things like that, it really still has these sharp angled forms, and then a kind of language of not quite half timbering, but not quite stick style either. A kind of muscular stick style, but then giving a special presence, almost an arch over that window that projects close to the platform. No, it's great. I'm glad it's has a promise of really being preserved.
If getting this preserved actually helps us get more trains on the Chestnut Hill East line, let's roll with it. So I slum it to 2 stations down at Stenton every day. But it is remarkable. And I think we forget about how old this line is and the impact that this line the Chestnut Hill, what's now the Chestnut Hill East Line, has had on not even the 19th and 20th century development, but even earlier on in the 1840s, 1850s when it first gets cut through. And I love this station, and and I don't use it, but it is definitely part of the neighborhood. And I was really taken aback too. I may have spent some time in the coal fields as a kid down in Virginia, and very much know what a coal breaker is. And of course, it's a coal breaker when those two things are connected, and the design and I don't know. I was just really, really impressed with the nomination, especially for something that's in my own community. So I applaud it, and I'd be happy to make a nomination if any, or not a nomination. I'm following Susanna.
Motion.
Could I just ask a
Motion.
quick question? Could I ask a quick?
That is a word that's really tripping us up today.
I just want to ask a quick question.
Yeah.
So why did Gowan get forced out of the board? Was there some story there?
Oh yeah.
I
Oh
mean, he
yeah.
committed suicide. I don't know what that story
I
is,
didn't know
but
he
that
committed
had to
suicide.
have been some serious stuff.
Me neither.
Yeah, I didn't think that was all that relevant, but apparently the company, he was very enthusiastic in expansion, and the company went bankrupt twice while he was in charge of it and expanding it. And it just got to the point where and it's not stated specifically what it was, but that they decided they'd had enough and they needed somebody with a little steadier hand in charge.
And was there
But
something about his testifying in Washington that led to his suicide? We don't know.
conspiracy, the Molly McGuire's. No, the
Deep
papers
state.
were full of theories about that, but nobody's ever really able to figure out what happened because he got there, went out, bought a pistol, went back to his room and shot himself. And,
Wow.
yeah, fascinating guy.
Am I correct that at one point in time the Reading was one of the largest corporations in the world?
Yeah.
It was huge at one point, and yeah, it sort of morphed and changed.
Right.
And
And
the, and
apparently the way
the,
he got into the coal mines was he got around state law to do that, which caused some consternation.
Yeah,
Really
I've
interesting.
more often heard that about the Pennsylvania Railroad, the largest
yeah,
corporation
me
in the
too.
country. But there was one thing, I don't know if you come across it, but Preston Thayer, have you heard that name before? He wrote his dissertation on Frank Furness's railroad stations, and
At
that's
Penn. Yeah.
and it's really quite good. And again, he picked up the coal breaker thing and then compared it to actual coal breakers in that text. You'll enjoy reading it, or
Hmm.
or not maybe reading the whole thing, but enjoy looking at it.
Thank you.
Okay, now you can go ahead and make a nomination, Debbie. I'll step in for you, Emily.
Okay.
I'm done.
It was considered the largest corporation in the early 1870s.
Okay. So we're ready for the nomination. Oh my gosh, the motion. Heavens to Betsy. I
Magic word
would
is
like to-
probably
Watch your
is
language.
really probably.
I sorry, the nomination is still in my mind. I would like to move that 119 East Gowan Avenue be the Mount Airy train station be added to the Philadelphia Register of Historic Places under criterion A and E.
Second.
Second.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes by unanimous consent. Great. Thank you.
Great job,
Thank you.
Adrian.
Thank you.
Yep. All right.
There's an architecture. There's actually a synagogue in Scranton that the design of which is based on a coal breaker.
Really? I didn't know that.
That's odd.
Huh. Lily, there's something a little funny about your mic. You keep sort of getting muted at the beginning of when you're speaking, just so you know. I don't know if there it is. Now we can't hear you.
My thingies.
Okay. That's better. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I just thought I would let you know. All right. Sorry. Continuing with the last nomination on our agenda is the nomination for 701 West Johnson Street, the Bluebell Mission, and Josh Schroeder of the staff will be presenting it to us, I believe.
Yes, thank you. Josh Schroeder with the staff. And before I read the introduction, if we could elevate Ken Weinstein again. He is the property owner for this as well. And the nominator is Oscar Bizert, although I don't see who he wrote the nomination. I don't see him here, but if he shows up, please elevate him. So this nomination proposes to designate the property at 701 West Johnson Street, known as the Bluebell Mission, and listed on the Philadelphia Register of Historic Places under Criterion J. The Bluebell Mission is a one-story frame building, recognizable as a simple chapel with a basic rectangular shape, steep gabled roof, and a brick entrance centered on the primary elevation. There are 3 additions of varying size and configurations at the rear. The mission was constructed in 1879 as a Methodist mission chapel on the site of what is now 6244 Wissahickon Avenue before it was physically moved to its present location in 1922. The proposed period of significance spans from the chapel's construction in 1879 till the end of its affiliation with the Methodist Church in 2013, when it was sold to the Mount Airy United Fellowship Church, who did use the building for another several years thereafter. The nomination contends that the property satisfies Criterion J for its tenure as a religious and community centerpiece of the Bluebell Hill neighborhood and as one of the remaining mission chapels. And the staff recommends that the property at 701 West Johnson Street satisfies Criterion J for designation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I think we can again invite Ken Weinstein to say something at this point if you would like to.
Yeah, thanks again for considering this nomination. I was really taken with this church, not just because of the history that you're considering, but also because Reverend Williams, who is, I believe, in his 80s, who's the retiring reverend of this church, sang in the Dixie Hummingbirds in the early 80s. And once I started listening to their gospel music, I couldn't stop. So if you haven't had the chance, check out the Dixie Hummingbirds. But this is a very cool building. We plan to do an adaptive reuse into residential, single family, and looking forward to getting started.
Thank you. All right, I think now we'll invite anyone else who would like to speak to this nomination to please raise your hand and so we can hear your comment. And Hannah Stark has her hand raised, so I want to go ahead and hear from her.
Good morning again, committee members. This is Hannah Stark with the Preservation Alliance. Just want to, again, thought this was a really great nomination, has a really interesting evolution in history. And again, think this is a great building to be added to the Philadelphia Register of Historic Places. So hope you will recommend it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So anyone else who would like to speak? Stephen Peitzman is the next. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I have not yet actually read the nomination, but I look forward to doing so. I live fairly close to the Bluebell area, and if anything can be considered a sort of semi-hidden, charming enclave, it's the few streets that constitute Bluebell as a small neighborhood on the edge of what is usually considered Germantown. I've enjoyed walking on those streets many, many times. I've passed this building, but I have to say I haven't paid much note of it. And unfortunately, it has lost its bell coat and some of its other elements, but still an attractive little building. But it's great to see something recognized in that Bluebell area, which itself might constitute a very attractive district, but at least some attention being drawn to it, but not too much attention, I think is a very good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. And then next is David Traub.
Yeah, I'm David Traub representing Save Our Sites. I just want to echo the comments of Hannah and Dr. Weitzman, but this certainly is a very worthy nomination. But it occurs to me that perhaps Mr. Weinstein, in converting this house to residential, could return the house to some of the details of the original house, which of course is very charming in its architecture. I'm not suggesting he apply the cupola that I see there above the roof, but maybe some of the details, for instance, the ones under the main gable, kind of a cross member of timbers, and then again under the gable at the entryway, kind of a crush-like motif there. And then maybe the coloration of the building. So that would be very, very nice if he could return it somewhat to its original appearance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Please raise your hand. I don't see any more hands, so I think we will now move to our committee discussion.
Yeah, I appreciate this very much in the same spirit as with the nomination of the Metz House, in the sense of giving a past and populating a past of this kind of chapel, often meant to be temporary in the landscape. At the same time, it's nominated, I think, mainly for Jay, entirely for Jay, and it does give this neighborhood that really wasn't on my mental map, a rootedness in extending back to its origins. It's remarkable it survives. So I'm very pleased. I think it's well written, well researched, and I especially appreciate the looking at least a half dozen other examples of these late 19th century chapels that are modestly built, but some still survive, like this one.
As I recall, there's a great big house in the middle of the block of West Johnson Street, surrounded by row houses, and I agree. I think that block would be worthy of some more work, just to understand who was living there. That might explain also, the relocation of the church at a certain point. I love the story that the minister was also a park guard.
Yes.
That is dear to my heart. I should mention, though, just for clarity's sake, that since Parks and Rec has been regularizing names, and it is now no longer known as Fairmount Park. It's now called Wissahickon Valley Park. That Fairmount Park now refers only to the East and West Schuylkill Parks for future reference.
I thought this was a good nomination and certainly a worthy building. But as I was going through it, I kept looking for reference to a church plans book. And I had in my mind that this must have appeared, or something very much like it must have appeared in it. And so the chapel was originally built in 1879. And in 1876, a Philadelphia architect, Benjamin Price, published a book with the Methodist Board of Church Extension. And these plan books for churches started with basic one-room clapboard chapels and went all the way up to Gothic cathedrals. And so in 1879, in a book that Price did, they were arranged by price, so by cost. So the very first image looks very, very similar to this. You would send $2.50 to Mr. Price, and he would send you a full set of plans for the $200 to $1,000 building. This was a huge business across the country, but Philadelphia was a major center for the publication of these plan books. The Presbyterians also had a Presbyterian Board of Church Direction, which also circulated plan books among their churches. So they were designed to be temporary and essentially starter churches and mission churches. And so I think a lot of them may still survive in one fashion or another. But I'd strongly recommend that you take a look at the first plate in Benjamin Price's book from 1876. Um, Sloan did this too. There were one or two small chapels in Sloan's books, but I think they were a little more middle to upper class in terms of their cost. Is anybody else familiar with Benjamin Price's work?
Yeah, it rings a bell. I remember
Yeah,
that from pattern books, a project I did on pattern books.
yeah.
Purcell did this too, Isaac Purcell, and they were published in I can't remember the name of the Presbyterian publication, but there it was that was slit. There were a number of those designs that were published in that periodical, but I can't remember the name of it.
It had the word Presbyterian in it. That's all I remember.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I could probably look it up, but I don't remember what it is right now. But
But it is
and that was a
interesting,
big part of.
these Philadelphia architects who had a mail order business going on the side.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Price did a couple of mansions as well, and one of the buildings that is presently Litz Brothers, or was once with Litz Brothers. He had a secular practice as well.
Mhm.
Well, I can pull the trigger unless anybody has something more to say.
Please go ahead.
Propose 701 West Johnson Street be added to the Philadelphia Register of Historic Places on the basis of criterion J.
Second.
Second?
Thank you. Any
I have-
opposed? Sorry,
No,
Suzanne, go ahead.
but I just have a quick question. I don't oppose the nomination. But with all these suggestions of the pattern books, is that just for general information, or are you suggesting that Savory and Sheets borrowed from a pattern book for their design?
Oh, I don't think they needed to. They were basically.
I didn't think so either. That's why I just wanted to clarify the conversation.
No,
Yeah, okay.
just an interesting adjunct fact, but
Excellent. Agreed. Thank you.
So did our vote take, or do we have to do it again?
No, it definitely took it.
I just have to pronounce.
Okay.
I think.
Sorry.
That's all right. I thought I should do it. Hearing no objection to the motion and its second, the motion passes by unanimous consent. And I think that concludes our meeting for today.
Great.
Thank
you, everybody.
Again, thank you to everyone who participated. Thank you to property owners, nominators, and all the hard work of the staff in bringing these nominations to our meeting. And I think, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thank you again. All right.
See you
Thanks,
next
everyone.
time.